Elle est leader du mouvement du Convoi des libertés au Canada en 2022. Elle est devenue surtout le symbole d'espoir pour des millions de personnes éveillées au style totalitaire et dictatorial du gouvernement canadien, mise en lumière justement par le mouvement qu'elle a contribué à lancer. Tamara Lich, please.
Bonjour. Bonjour, désolé, je ne parle pas bien le français, mais j'essaie.
We're going to try to do it in English. Hi, Tamara. Please, thank you to be there. So, first question, what role did censorship play in the Convoy movement, and how has your freedom of speech been compromised as a result?
Yes, well, I had no idea when I first reached out to Chris Barber in January of 2022, offering my logistics and organizational skills to help support a potential protest, that it was going to turn into a worldwide movement. We did not see that coming. Although Justin Trudeau said that we were nothing more than a small fringe minority holding unacceptable views, Freedom Convoy garnered incredible support through donations totaling over $10 million in a period of less than 8 weeks, twice. Not to mention the overwhelming donations of food, fuel, and clothing that we received. Every Canadian that came to Ottawa either brought something, donated something, or pitched in to help in some way. Does that sound like a fringe minority to you? Because it doesn't sound like one to me. Canadians flocked en masse to the capital city, supporting the truckers on their quest to end the mandates and asking for their freedoms to be fully restored. Canadians had already endured 2 years of restrictions to their freedoms, which are supposed to be guaranteed and protected under our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, signed in 1982. The handling of the pandemic, the convoy, and of the peaceful protesters in Ottawa proved that our beloved charter isn't worth the paper that it's written on. In 2021, we witnessed the most divisive federal election in our history, with our Prime Minister turning COVID-19 vaccines and their mandates into a wedge issue. He threatened and implemented a travel ban on Canadians without vaccine passports from entering or leaving the country, prevented travel by air, train, or sea, denying us entry to most public venues, imposed curfews, and made the COVID vaccine a requirement for employment. Canadians were denied medical care, denied visitation with their elderly parents in long-term care facilities, denied saying goodbye to their loved ones, denied proper funerals, weddings, and graduations. Every social anchor we need in a healthy and functioning society. Our Prime Minister called us racists. He called us uneducated. He called us misogynistic and questioned whether or not we should be tolerated. The convoy movement was a result of a straw that broke the camel's back moment. The cross-border proof of vaccination mandate for truckers, the very men and women who had worked throughout the pandemic to make sure that we had food, medical supplies, fuel, and of course, our Amazon orders. They worked without access to most restaurants, without access to showers or to washrooms. And then they said, when? And even though the Freedom Convoy's purpose was to help Canadians get back to some sort of normal, it was the inadvertent exposure of the corruption of our institutions, the state of our freedom of speech, and the rampant censorship that led to our ultimate success. We exposed a weak Prime Minister who would rather tuck tail and run, call his own citizens names, and shoot them with rubber bullets than to make time to sit down and simply listen to their concerns. In Canada, if your beliefs and opinions do not match the beliefs and opinions of Justin Trudeau, he will simply censor you by ignoring you. Well, at least he tried. At least he tried to ignore us. We exposed the link between government and woke crowdfunding platforms and how easy it is to have your campaign frozen and terminated. If your cause is not a government-approved cause, they will censor your ability to raise money, donate to, or receive donated funds from an online crowdfunding source. We also exposed the collusion of our banking institutions and government, which enabled them to freeze the bank accounts and assets of everyday Canadians. This was done without parliamentary oversight or a court order from a judge. Not a single banking bureaucrat stood up and questioned this illegal and unconstitutional action. If your policies are not aligned with the current liberal government, they will censor you financially, impairing your ability to pay your bills, make your mortgage payment, pay your child support, or donate to a cause that you believe in, which actually is a form of freedom of expression. It left families unable to purchase medication for their children, mothers stuck at checkout counters in grocery stores with a cart full of groceries only to find their debit cards didn't work and their credit cards were declined. Currently in Canada, we are facing legislation censoring our internet, censoring the news we see, and within the last few weeks, they even tried to censor our military padres from praying at our Remembrance Day services tomorrow. Thankfully, after the directive was leaked to the media, there was enough backlash that this directive had been rescinded. The Freedom Convoy is the single most defining moment in the collapse of public trust in the legacy media. What could have been a golden opportunity for our media to truly unite Canadians was either rejected or completely ignored, and they chose instead to be a propaganda arm of the state. This is really to be expected when governments start giving monetary handouts to their media. Even a dog will not bite the hand that feeds him. We watched independent media and citizen journalists, even our friends and families, capturing the true essence of the spirit of the convoy, the crowds along the highways, the flags waving proudly from every overpass, Canadians from every color, culture, religion, age demographic, and geographical location with the hope for a better future on their faces. Instead, the legacy media knowingly reported lies and falsehoods such as the truckers raiding a homeless shelter, foreign funding, desecrating statues, disrespecting our war memorial, attempted arson, a very questionable photo of a swastika flag that by all accounts seems to have been planted, and even going so far as to insinuate that we had been infiltrated by the Russians. That anchor woman still has a job, by the way, working for our most trusted news source, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. The media did their best to paint us as uneducated hooligans and anti-vaccine thugs coming to Ottawa with torches and pitchforks to wreak havoc and terrorize the local citizens. In fact, we were mostly blue-collar, middle-class Canadians from all walks of life and all corners of the country, as well as doctors, nurses, lawyers, former and present law enforcement, military veterans, moms, dads, grandmas, and grandpas. Clearly terrifying. The government of Canada and the mainstream media worked in tandem, ignoring the truth of what was really happening, refusing to report on any perspective or expert opinion that did not end up with us being painted as domestic terrorists. And they went to great lengths to try and smear and discredit us. After their many attempts at provocation failed, and we remained peaceful and united, they invoked the Emergencies Act for the first time in Canadian history. The Emergencies Act replaced the former War Measures Act used by Justin Trudeau's own father in 1970. In Canada, the Emergencies Act and former War Measures Act are akin to martial law. This enabled law enforcement to violently dismantle the most peaceful and polite protest of all time. I mean, this is Canada after all. It allowed them to freeze bank accounts and to literally and figuratively trample on our rights and freedoms. In Canada, if you refuse to support the government-approved narrative, the media will censor you, smear you, defame you without care of your person, your life, your job, or your family.
Thank you very much, Tamara Lich, for this speech.